The other tool is a 6-foot string. Okay. Now the 6-foot string is, again, it's yachting braid rope. It is finished, just like I described with the 12-foot line. It has a little open loop on the end here and a little weighted end with a little popper on the end right here. Okay, so you have a lot of versatility to it. And again, I like to explain it separate from the stick. You can put it on and attach it to the stick. So instead of having just a 4-foot length, you add 6 foot, you have a 10-foot length. And believe me, with horses, there's times when you need to be able to reach out and touch something or have enough pressure from 10 feet away. So you have a 12-foot lead line, a 10-foot stick and string, and believe me, the old saying, you couldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. 10 feet is a relative distance with prey animals. So that's why these are those exact lengths. Now, detaching it from the stick is really important, and let me tell you why. Because you need to be able to, and I don't want to say you need to, but you might want to have this on you at all times. I've been carrying a string in my pocket for years, and I don't mean like 3 years, I mean like probably 18 years, okay? I couldn't wear it at my wedding. I couldn't find a place to put it. So with a 6-foot string, it's kind of 1,001 uses. And I have this in my pocket. I simply, fold it in half again, one more time. And it's a little bit bulky, but I just kind of squish it over like that, make it as flat as possible. And that's always in my back pocket with a little popper sticking out, and you'd be amazed how many times through the course of a week I use this little string. And it's really funny because people are going along and they're doing something, and all of a sudden I'll go, something's tipping over or whatever, and I'll go, oh, here, let's tie that up with my string. And I keep pulling my string out of my pocket. And so people that are around me all the time, they're always like, Karen and her string. It's a little strange, but boy, that was kind of handy. So I'll give you the best example. In one day, I was ranch roping with a good friend of mine, Dan Moyer, and it was too windy to rope one day, so we drove out. He was doing some day work, and we had to drive out to this ranch, take a flatbed out there to pick up a piece of equipment. Well, we're driving along. It's about a 2-hour drive out to the other ranch, and we went along, and he pulled over, and he says, darn it, and he's looking back in his rear view. I said, what's going on? He says, well, one of the planks on the flatbed's loose, and it's kind of flopping up in the wind. So we get out there, and I said, well, here's my string, and tie it down. And he goes, okay, she has a string. We tied it down. Well, it's kind of handy. We get in and go. Well, we get out to the ranch, and they said, hey, well, you got the flatbed here before you load up the piece of equipment, load up the tractor. He said, we need to move some irrigation pipe out to the big field. So we loaded all this big, huge PVC pipe, stacked it up on this flatbed, and there was a corner. It was a little bit long for the flatbed, and it was dragging. Well, it was like, okay, how are we going to do this? So I grabbed my string, tied around the lowest one, wrapped it, and picked it up, tied it to an upper one, and lifted it up enough, and off we went down the lane with this, load of irrigation pipe. So here's use number 2, and they're really looking kind of funny at me. So we get done with that, and we load up the piece of equipment, and we're headed back home. About 30 minutes in the drive, Dan looks in the rear view, he goes, darn it, and sure enough, the cover to the engine, the latch had broke, and this thing was flipping up in the air, as we were driving along. About this time, he looked at me, and I pulled the string out, and he took that and tied the engine cover down, and off we went. We got back to the ranch and played in time. And about that time, he says, okay, Karen, what is the deal with the string? And I said, well, we used it 3 times in one trip. And he said, I need some of those. And every time I see Dan Moyer, my friend Dan Moyer, he gets strings. I send him to him, and boy, he sure likes to use them, and they're just handy. And you can keep baling twine on hand and do the same thing. But a lot of times, if you have to go over to a truck or you're not where your baling twine is at, this thing is just always on me in my right back pocket. I'll catch a dog or tie a gate open in the wind, or all kinds of things. Play with kids that if they're getting bored in a restaurant, pull out your string. You just have a fun little toy right there too. Somebody wants to show you a knot, you got it right there. So again, I've been carrying this every day for many, many, many years, and that's why I like to describe the tools, because it looks like such a simple thing, and yet if you have it on you, you'll use it for many, many, many things. And get some extra ones. They're just as handy as can be, and I have them in use all the time, tying things to my truck. That's what I prefer, to tie my bales onto my truck, onto the back of my truck, more than a piece of baling twine, because baling twine on baling twine can cut the other twine. So this doesn't cut through. And sometimes people don't know that. If you don't have a knife to cut baling twine, take another piece of baling twine, put it under it, and just saw it back and forth like that, and it'll pop like that for you. But you don't want that to happen when you're not planning on it. So anyway, it's just a great tool, and hopefully, again, that'll just be something that'll further expand your skills and techniques with your horse.